We meet here today to provide an update on the upcoming ANC Youth League Second National General Council, to launch our discussion documents and to reflect on critical issues that confront young people and the nation at large. The NGC is not a ceremonial event. It is an historic gathering of young people across our structures where we'll debate, reflect, and take bold resolutions. It will make the renewal and repositioning of the Youth League as an uncompromising voice of young people in South Africa and Africa and the world in general. The discussion documents we are launching today are designed to provoke thoughts and inspire solutions on the economy, on education, on social transformation, and on the fight for a truly equal society, on immigration and border management. The Youth League believes in the principle of solidarity with the oppressed across the world. However, this solidarity cannot come at the expense of the stability of South Africa. We are clear, only documented immigrants must be permitted in South Africa. Uncontrolled and illegal migration places an unsustainable burden on our communities, on the health system, on education, and most importantly, on the labor market where young South Africans are already struggling to find work. We therefore call on the Department of Home Affairs to pull up their socks. The department must fix inefficiencies and stop corruption in issuing of documents, and act firmly against those who undermine immigration laws. We also call for the strengthening of borders with modern systems and technologies to protect the sovereignty of our country. On food safety and regulation of spaza shops. Our communities across South Africa, especially townships and informal settlements, are facing serious risks due to unregulated spaza shops, and many of those outlets are selling expired, substandard, and sometimes dangerous goods to our people. The ANC Youth League calls for an urgent enforcement of food safety standards and the strict regulation of spaza shops, ensuring that every operator complies with South African laws. Food security and health of our people cannot be compromised in the name of profit. According to South African law, foreign nationals would only be hired for scarce skills. We therefore call for spaza shops, supermarkets, hardware stores should be owned and managed by only South Africans. On youth unemployment and economic participation. The youth unemployment remains the single most urgent crisis in our country. Over 60% of young people are unemployed, which is a ticking bomb if it's left unaddressed. We cannot continue to operate in an economy that is extra active, where South African export raw minerals only and only import finished products at a higher price. The ANC Youth League has been proposing a beneficiation of 70% of our raw materials, as well as the reindustrialization of strategic mineral resources. We further call for export quotas that protect local industries and ensure that South African markets are not flooded with cheap imported product that destroys jobs. If beneficiation, industrialization, and local procurements are implemented decisively, they will unlock thousands of sustainable jobs for young people and develop skills and begin to break the cycle of poverty. On our struggle for economic freedom and the post-bank. The struggle for freedom in our lifetime remains non-negotiable. The Youth League reaffirms its demands for radical economic transformation that gives young people ownership, control, and meaningful participation in the economy. In this regard, the strengthening of the Post Bank is urgent. The Post Bank must become a popular bank that provides affordable financial services, support for youth entrepreneurs, and reduce reliance of exported private banks that have long excluded the poor in South Africa and black in majority. In fact, SASSA and NEFSA's beneficiaries should mainly get their grants and stipends via Post Bank. On the transformation of the education system, NEFSA's TVET colleges and the Bella Act. NEFSA's crisis has left too many young people excluded from the accessibility of their education. Corruption and maladministration and weak systems have compromised the future of thousands of students. We demand that government act urgently to reform NEFSAS and create transparency and student-centered funding model that is efficient and free of corruption. Our TVET colleges must shift from the narrative that TVETs should not be regarded as inferior institutions. They must be seen as a center of excellence and that drives skills development. The ANC Youth League calls for each TVET campus to be resourced and specialized according to industries of needs. SETAs must use their budgets to invest in modern specialization, ensuring that graduates are work-ready and are ready to respond to the economic demands. On the Basic Education Law Amendment Act, that represents a step towards transformation of education. Yet the DA has openly resisted its full implementation. By rejecting the Pillar Act, the DA seeks to maintain the privilege and exclude majority from schools. The Youth League calls out the hypocrisy and harshness and demands that the Act gets implemented fully by its minister. As the ANC Youth League, we cannot remain silent in the face where gender-based violence and the alarming levels of crime in our communities. Too many young people and young women and children continue to suffer at the hands of perpetrators. While many young men are being lost to violence and crime and drugs and gangsterism, we reaffirm our commitment to intensifying campaigns that mobilize communities against gender-based violence, to strengthening partnership with law enforcement, to advocate for harsher measures against perpetrators. At the same time, we believe that government must invest in youth employment as a preventive strategy. On the role of expectation of the newly appointed NYDA leadership, the ANC Youth League once again congratulates the appointed leadership of the National Youth Development Agency, which assumed office on the 1st of August 2025. We extend our best wishes as they embark on the important responsibility of championing the inspiration of young people across the country. The Youth League expects a strong working relationship with the new leadership, one rooted in partnership, accountability, and agency. We urge them to serve with integrity, innovation, and to ensure that young persons are not left behind. On the decisive leadership of the ANC and the ANC Youth League. Our movement and our league requires decisive leadership that puts people first and resists factionalism. The ANC Youth League commits itself to build a youth league that is militant, disciplined, and rooted in the struggles of our people. The future of South Africa cannot be left to indecisive leaders and opportunists. The future of South Africa cannot be left to indecisive leaders or opportunists. We must rebuild the ANC and the ANC Youth League as to be a trusted vehicle of transformation. On the taxi violence, the ANC Youth League has noted and discussed the ongoing violence happening in our country. We call on SATACO to be decisive on keeping the violence. The taxi industry is the initial mode of transport for majority of South Africans, particularly workers and students. Equally, we are concerned about the continuous harassment to providers of e-hailing services by some elements within the taxi industry. This harassment not only affects the economy, but also affects those that depend on the service. But we also call upon the owners of the e-hailing companies to stop employing foreigners and illegal foreigners and employ South Africans to be the full participant and owners of this e-hailing program. On the conduct of the opposition parties in the government of national unity. The establishment of the government of national unity has placed opposition leaders in position of responsibility. However, the conduct has exposed their lack of seriousness and capability. The DA continues to undermine the government's protocols and demonstrates arrogancy in the GNU. Gaten Mackenzie and Bantu Holomisa of Bantu Stand have embarrassed themselves with recklessness and uninformed statements. These incidences have exposed the critical truth that many of these parties are not prepared to lead South Africa. They are driven by only populism and self-interest. On the national convention, the recent national convention, for the purpose of the national dialogue, excluded meaningful youth participation and representation, reducing young people to spectators in discussing about their own future. We stayed firmly, this cannot happen again. Any genuine national dialogue must put the youth at the center and must produce a clear outcome-based goal that prioritizes the economy, jobs, and the creation of education. Without youth, there is no future. The agenda of the national dialogue will re-emphasize it must be economy, inclusion of the economy. Anything else is a joke. On readiness of the NGC and the fundraising efforts, the ANC Youth League is ready, structures are mobilized, delegates are prepared. The discussion documents are on the table. The NGC will not be an inward-looking gathering. It will be a youth-led national dialogue, a real youth-led national dialogue where the church will cause the next and change decades to come. We also acknowledge the efforts of the Treasurer's Office, which has organized a fundraising business lounge to assist the youth in operation which is operating without a budget, the youth which is operating without a budget. This is bound to an innovative step in proving that once again, that young people can be resourceful and solution-driven. If I get into that, in conclusion, we would like to wish the Scorpion Kings well on our forthcoming Amapiano concert, which will be honoring the legendary Ntate Kefas Semenya this Friday, the 29th of August. We will be there in attendance, Samkel. Comrades and friends, the NGC is a moment to shape the sphere of the Youth League. It is our platform to hold the movement accountable. We propose radical solutions to ensure that the youth voice is heard loudly and clearly, shaping the future of the country. This NGC sits few months before the ANC NGC. We're not going to the ANC NGC without a mandate from our own branches. And we want to highlight this year that in 81 years, this is the second ANC Youth League historic NGC. Now, when we're saying that we're the best amongst our peers, we're not lying. We are ready to lead. We are ready to fight for economic freedom in our lifetime. We are ready to ensure that the Youth League remains at the forefront of youth struggles. Thank you. Yeah, questions first.
Okay, so this is how we are going to run it. We are going to take questions directed at the statement that the President has just read to us, and then afterwards we are going to take the chairperson of the drafting committee of the NEC of the ANC Youth League to come and present on the discussion documents of the Second National General Council. So I'm going to take a round of questions. I do note your hand, sir. So we are going to start with the gentleman there at the back, and then we are going to come down to the SABC. And then afterwards, there is also a hand up here in front. So we have these three hands for now. And can you please just, is there another mic, Kel? Okay, so the mic is already with you. Okay, you can go.
Somlom, President, leadership of the Youth League and the room. President, Tunes is my name from Welera News, Ecolichos News. President, I just wanted to touch on three things that you just spelled now before us. President, when it comes to issue of spaza shop, as you just mentioned, what needs to happen, there's a case that I'm investigating in Dobsonville, and I did share it with some of my colleagues, different media houses, whereby there was a South African woman who was retrenched, and he take his savings. He tried to open a business to able to support his siblings. Now this woman, she was threatened by the neighboring foreigner, Pakistan, spaza shop owner. And as this woman was threatened, it came to my attention by the councillor in the area, which is in Dobsonville. So with that, it was a concern, saying these foreigners, where do they get confidence to threaten South Africans who they've got the right to also run the business? And that woman, he also proven that he did comply. And this one that is threatening, he's not even complying, because even traffic officers, they went and then to find out that the same foreigner that is threatening, he's not even complying in terms of the documents. So I want to respond on that one. When it comes to EGPV, President, the country's been talking about this. It seems it's a pandemic that doesn't stop. Who must die for this to stop? Because there was a case in Northwest, even the father, he was even responding on Monday, saying if this perpetrator has been released by the court for whatever reason, he will address that perpetrator himself. Will you blame that father to say that? The last one, when you're talking about the communities that are terrorized, they are being terrorized by those that they think they've got the right to do so. There is a case whereby there's a guy in the Dobsonville who is terrorizing the community, and that community, even when they report to the cop shop, the investigating officers, they are in the pockets of this thug. So what would you say to those police that they find themselves to be in the pockets of those criminals that they are terrorizing the community? Because those police, if they're doing so, people, they're saying that the government is failing to service. They are looking at the government. They are not blaming those individuals. So what will be your response to that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Samkele from the SABC. Two quick questions. President Ramaphosa has been criticized over the past few weeks of lacking proper leadership when it comes to providing solutions to the country's problems that beleague this particular country. What is the Youth League's view of the leadership of your president of the party and of the president of the country? Then secondly, on the issues of the national dialogue, your former member, last I checked, Nompendulo Mkajwa, is part of the Eminent Persons Group with a number of other young people. What have been your engagements with some of these young people who form part of this Eminent Persons Group that is tasked with collating and bringing together this particular national dialogue? Then on the issues of the economic transformation of the country, and that the national dialogue should focus on the economy, what are the proposals the Youth League is bringing to the fore on the economic transformation of the country? Because recently you've had the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, speaking about some of the proposals you've put forward of beneficiation, saying that there must be a quotas of how much minerals are benefited in the country domestically in order to create jobs, and a lesser number of raw dust being exported into the international markets. What is your thinking on this particular framing of the economic question when it comes to the national dialogue? Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Yamtanda Kapa from News 24. I'm going to start with the national dialogue. And were you guys there? Let's start there. Did you attend the convention? Perhaps I may have missed your delegation. Did you have a discussion document that your own proposals? What do you think the convention was supposed to focus on? With regards to the president saying that the health system, education system is overburdened by an uncontrolled number of illegal immigrants. What are you basing that on? Because I think the facts are that the health system and education system has various issues, including shortage of medication with health and shortage of staff. What exactly are you basing this on? And are you not bordering on being xenophobic in your comments? And also, you're saying that Leon Schreiber must pull up his socks. He just arrived. Look, it's been a year, sure, but his predecessor is your own leader. So please, can you explain? Thank you.
Thanks. I don't want to take a second round. So can I take any other hand that's there? Because remember that we still have to get the presentation on the discussion documents, and we will open another set of questions if they are based on the presentation we've received. So we'll take your one more question, and then we'll go to the gentleman there at the back, and then we go to responses.
Okay. You also said, Colin, the future of SA cannot be left to indecisive leaders and opportunists. Please be explicit. Who are you talking about? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. This is Jing Wama from Germiston News, newspaper in East Rand, Ekurhuleni. So we have quite a lot of issues on our side of the world. You're leading in coalition with the EFF Action SA in Ekurhuleni, we know that for sure. And there's an issue of illegal occupations of housing, hijacking buildings in Ekurhuleni, such as Germiston. And recently, I think you saw on the news the breaking news about Faro Park, where people were evicted and put outside because they stay there without paying municipality services. So as the Youth League, and of course, your government is in power in Ekurhuleni with the mayor of Ekurhuleni, of course, he is from the ANC. Do you have a plan in terms of illegal occupations of buildings in Ekurhuleni? If you have information, you can give it to us. And next as well, is the ANC Youth League ready to lead the country? Because there have been a lot of speculations that some of your leaders are tired and they are old. Are you guys ready? Yabo.
Okay, so we're going to take the SG first, and then afterwards the president will come in for the responses.
Thanks, folks, and greetings to the media houses and listeners at home. I'll just take the one point on the SABC around what would have been our framing of what should be the framing of the national dialogue on the questions of the economy. Look, Samkela, the Youth League has been making propositions as it relates to the economy right from 2011, and we're not going to say it's new ideas that comes with the 26th National Congress. In 2011, the 24th National Executive Committee, together with the Congress itself, took a decision to formulate 7 cardinal pillars which are driving what we call the generational mission of economic freedom. The 26th National Congress reaffirmed that and expanded that. And we've been saying that the battle now for the South African soil is about transforming this economy to work for our people. And we've been very clear making proposition that we must industrialize our critical minerals in order to create industrial capacity or industrial development in South Africa, create economic opportunities and jobs. And that's what we're saying in the National Convention. We're saying we're not going to accept anything that is dragging us to other things that are not talking about transforming this country's economy, including ensuring acceleration of land reform. And that's what we're proposing in the national dialogue. Any national dialogue that does not resolve the land question and the economy is a mere waste of time. Because our historic struggle as Africans and the black people in this country is a struggle against the dispossessions of land and the economy. Participation of our black people who constitute the majority of this country are living in squalor conditions in the informal settlements and in rural areas, in underdeveloped rural areas. And that's why we're saying we're not prepared as the Youth League to listen to anything that does not talk to this question about beneficiating our minerals, industrializing, creating economic opportunities and jobs. That's what we are proposing in the national dialogue. Anything that does not have that, we're not prepared to listen to that. But we're also saying this national dialogue must be civil society-led. You know, political formations, church formations, labor, you know, our civil society organizations, they must be the ones that speak on behalf of the communities, because we as political formations, together with churches, together with labor, we are representing, you know, the pain and the heart, the aspirations of the South African people. So it must be us who are leading this national dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SG. I think let's first agree that national convention was a tea party of friends. The president was misled, invited to a tea party of friends who meet each other over tea and consolidate each other into a delegation. What informs that? Civil organizations that have got constituencies were not there. Political youth organizations that have got constituencies were not there. Political parties, because how do we test that we've got support? We test you through what you supported for. I'm saying if the Youth League is not there, whether it's EFFD, all of these parties, civil organizations that we are knowing them are not there, even the foundations that represent integrity were not there. Now, obviously, it was clear that it was a platform created by opportunists to try to present that for the past 30 years, the ANC has done nothing for South Africans. It was a right-winger platform, anti-democracy, set up, programmed by people who are obsessed about taking the progressive out of power. That's how we've classified that thing. That's why we're saying that it must be corrected. The real national dialogue must be convened with the right people. Now, I fell on that one, SG, I must make that emphasis. On the issue of what the Minister of Mineral have said, we agree with him. We want from soil to factory. We want to industrialize the economy. We're clear on that one. We're not apologetic. We've been consistent about export quotas. We have not moved from it. And with our new economic conditions and sanctions and all of these problems, you know why it's important that we create economic corridors and beneficiate our minerals here to create enough employment for our youth. And we strongly believe as the Youth League that if you create economic corridors and beneficiate in South Africa, the issue of unemployment will be the thing of the past. On the issue of spaza shops, foreigners doing it, we are aware of that. We've spoken against it. It's lawlessness. We can't have foreigners running around with guns, utilizing gangsters, saying that South Africans, the real owners of this land, must not participate in their own economy. Foreigners, if we go to a stage where foreigners do that, you must know we've reached a level of lawlessness. That's why we agree with the commission that has been set in place to investigate the corruption in the police, and everyone that must enforce the law, because who allows those foreigners to do that? And we'll wait for the outcomes of that, and we're sure it will confirm that, which includes also the gender-based violence. The reason people end up taking the law into their own hands is because they no longer believe in the system, that the police will protect them anymore. And the moment people no longer believe that police will protect them, they'll take the law into their own hands. And we can afford as a country, as a young democracy, that we have lawlessness in this country. It will cause anarchy into the country. What do we mean when we say we want decisive leadership? We're clear. We want President Ramaphosa to decisively fire all ministers that are not implementing resolutions. We want the ANC to decisively remove all mayors, anybody else who's deployed by the African National Congress on behalf of the people of South Africa. They must be held accountable why there's no service delivery, why there's no implementations of resolutions, why there's chaos in this country. Now we're saying President Ramaphosa must be decisively and fire them. That's what we mean when we say that we want decisive leadership who acts on people that are not implementing. We have agreed in the past that every Tuesday we'll hold them accountable here in our offices. We've started the process of doing that, and we'll be working together closely with the president, also putting him also under pressure. That the president will no longer have the luxury of time. We urgently need to regain the confidence of our people. And the only way to regain the confidence of our people is to implement what we've promised them, which is a better life for all. Now, that one is very urgent, which we mean that must happen urgently. We can't say there's a new Minister of Home Affairs. When good things are happening that the ANC government have done, they claim them as theirs. The issue of basic education, we know that the pit toilets and everything were removed by a minister of the ANC. But Mam Angie Motshekga can stand up and say, no, those things were done by me. When there's a new minister, he takes responsibility of everything, the good and the bad. Now we're saying the Minister of Home Affairs must urgently take responsibility and fight against the corruption that is happening at Home Affairs. It's a known corruption. I wonder what is happening at Jimmy State Home Affairs now that they're spent down. I'm sure the corruption is now at steroids, because now there's no longer systems. People are given IDs behind the booths outside parking lots. Now I can imagine if corruption happens in buildings, what will happen in parking lots? It's even worse. I'm sure there are new Nigerians now who are South Africans since the burning of Jimmy State. Now that corruption must be resolved urgently. We can allow that corruption to happen, including the hijacking of buildings. We can accept that towns like Bosberg, Germiston, Johannesburg, foreigners just hijack buildings and nothing happens. Now we're saying that the law must be enforced. In the middle of all of these problems we're faced with, on top of all the problems we're faced with for youth unemployment and the disaster we're faced with, on the center of our main problems is the lack of law enforcement. Now when the law can be enforced, some of the issues can be resolved and we'll be able to answer them. On the issue of the research, whether the health system or the education system of illegal foreigners are heavy on them, it's evident. If you stay in South Africa and you go to a public service, you'll know that illegal foreigners are heavy on our health system. And due to our human rights commissions, you can't chase out people when they are sick. It's inhuman. But they are heavy on the system. They are heavy on because we budget for people who have counted in this country. If you have counted 64 million people and you are saying 20 million people are school-going people, you budget for those people, and the infrastructure budget is on those bases. Now, if there's someone who enters illegally, that person is heavy on the infrastructure because it's not budgeted for. But we're saying that more must be done. I agree with you. More must be done. We need to invest more on the health system. It's in some areas it's collapsing. We need to build more schools. We've seen a video not long ago going rounds of young people who are still crossing rivers, going to schools. It can happen in 31 years later in South Africa. Those are issues that must be resolved. It can't be that 31 years later in democracy, we still have young people who walk kilometers crossing dams in danger to access education. Now we're saying those are things that must be resolved on urgent basis. And if not resolved, it will cause problems for all of us South Africans. The issue of a young lady who was in the Fees Must Fall, there's nothing wrong with the young lady being deployed. We're not saying there's a problem with them. We say one more. We're not anti-youth being deployed. She's a young lady who was excelling also in Parliament. We believe that she can contribute also on this dialogue. She's a young lady who has got a stature of a person who can contribute to that. We're going to convene her to also come and brief us. And there's also another young person there who's got a planet named after. It's a young person of the Siyakusa, a young person of the movement. We embrace them. But we're saying that all decision-making bodies in South Africa must reflect the demographics of this country, which is youth in majority. We're saying the task teams that are set in place to plan these things must be root reflective. If you are taking only 0.1% and say it's youth and make them the faces, and what they do, these old people, we put young people there, so they are communicators of bad news. What they do, they sit back. You'll see very soon, Nompendulo, all the bad things that happen, they're putting Nompendulo as a face of the national dialogue. When things go good, they put all people as a face of the good things. The bad things is Nompendulo, the good things is the old people. Now those things, we're watching them, they want to use the young girl unnecessarily. We're behind there, we're watching her closely, we'll be coaching her close that don't be a communicator of bad news. Be a communicator of good news, because the future of the country belongs to the youth. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe all the questions were answered sufficiently. Because I'm not taking new questions, I would be open to one if there was one question that was not taken or responded to. Okay, I think it's fine. NEC member, Comrade Kutlwano Rakosa, is going to come and present on the discussion documents of the second NGC. Comrade Kutlwano.
Good day, President, the officials, and good day to the members of the media in South Africa. I'm tasked with a difficult yet simple responsibility, and that is outlining the clear summary of what we will be dealing with in the next coming weeks. We've tried to summarize some of the work that we will be doing, and we will not be going to the NGC just to go there and clap hands and sing. So we've been tasked with the responsibility to organize that there should be some form of discussion documents that will come out of the NGC, and there should be clear recommendations that will come out. But I just want to make this point clear that the discussion documents that are being launched, SG, is as a result of the 26th National Congress resolutions. We have set as the drafting committee, together with the relevant subcommittees that were tasked with implementing some of those decisions that had been taken. And the decisions that were taken were to try and look at them very closely as to what is it that has been progress that has been made, and what is it that has been challenges, and if possible, that would have taken decisions that are not measurable. What is it that we can do going forward in order to amplify and ensure that we concretize some of those decisions? So some of the basis in which I would have summarized this discussion documents is along those lines. So I will not be giving a broad framework around them. I'll just be giving a summary. So the first one that we'll be dealing with, that has been prepared by the organizational renewal, and I want to say it emphasizes on the point and the theme that had been taken previously. And the theme that we are still going with to the NGC has not changed, because as you would have heard the political report or the political input by the President just now, it emphasizes the point on economic freedom and social change now and not later. So everything that we are doing based on the Congress resolutions that we would have taken and the assessments that we are doing at the NGC are practically around the theme that had been taken previously. So we have not veered off from that discussion. We are just amplifying that point. So there are challenges that would have came out of the discussions that would have been taken around the issues of organizational renewal. And part amongst those challenges are the danger of social distance, isolation of the party from the masses, the danger of the state bureaucratization and the demobilization of the masses, the danger of corruption, the danger of institutional factionalism, ill discipline and disunity, fueled and inspired by battles over state control of the state power and resources, and the danger of using state institutions to settle inner party differences, the danger of neglecting the cadre policy, the danger of the lack of capacity and capability to implement policies to rapidly improve the standard of living of the masses. And those two important points, if you can, they would have also came out of the President's view when he spoke here, and that the standard of living of South Africans has not been improving. There are instances where we've made significant progress as the African National Congress, and with the assistance of the ANC Youth League, obviously being a board of opinion in doing checks and balances. But there are still elements where we think that there's still a lot that needs to improve. So we've based these things and we've calculated some of the questions, and some of the discussion documents are going to be based on some of these questions that we need to respond to. And with that, this is what we thought that we should come out of the NGC and the response out of the ANC Youth League. And that the ANC Youth League, in its current form and its current content, is it capable of advancing the realization of economic freedom? That is the theme. Economic freedom now, on it later. And if not, what is the problem? What kind of ANC Youth League will be best positioned to advance the realization of economic emancipation in our lifetime, and taking into consideration the 7 cardinal pillars that the SG would have spoken about, because we have not left them behind. We still need to re-emphasize on those points and amplify them. And what kind of leadership and membership is required to effectively build and sustain such a youth league? There's been a growing concern around the membership, the quality of membership, and the quality of leadership of the ANC Youth League. It becomes a growing concern, not only for issues when we go to our own conferences and congresses, but it also becomes a bone of contention when there are certain things are not resolved in the society around where is the ANC Youth League and its important voice. How should the organization be structured, and how should it function to carry out this mission successfully? So we are going to be looking into this issue around how is the organization structured, what is its functionality, and its functions are able to assist us as a movement at grassroots level, from the branch, from the zone, from the region up until national. Because as we all know, some of the decisions that are taken by the National Congress become implemented by branches, regions and provinces. So ours is to ensure that at least we create a sizable opportunity for branches, regions and provinces, and including zones, to be able to implement some of these decisions. And if we are not, we should be able to assess. If we are able to assess some of the decisions that we are making, we should be able to also assess the relevant branches. If in their content and form, are they be able to execute those decisions, as it were? So those are the broad frameworks in the organizational renewal document that we are going to be looking into, and others will follow suit. And I know that there is another one that we would have wanted to speak about around the membership and the leadership, but we'll come to it as we go closer to the NGC, probably next week. There is also a discussion around the presentation that we have formulated in assessing the work of the ETC, Economic Transformation Subcommittee, and we have brought in a lot of comrades from different sectors. I just want to make this point. And I know it will come out very clear when we formally launch those documents, and we will share them with you. We did not only look into issues that the president has spoken about, issues of prescribed assets alone, issues of beneficiation, issues of quotas, but we're also concerned about issues that relate to infrastructure and water. And it's things that we think that should be at the agenda of the NGC. When you go to areas such as where I come from in Tsakani, there is a shortage of water. There's a shortage of water in the Eastern Cape. At one point in areas like Western Cape, there was a day zero where people had to access water at different intervals. So we are extremely concerned around the water economy, and we do think that it should be at the center of the discussions as we go to the NGC around the funding models of the water, and how is it that the water is going to live from the Lesotho highlands and be accessible to the communities themselves. And some of these projects have been taking long in order for them to be implemented. And they are causing a serious concern in terms of health, and they are serious concern in terms of the accessibility of water. And we all know that water is not is a right. It's not something that we are going to dilly-dally around. So it's an important discussion that we do think that it should be at the center of the discussion at the NGC. And in implementing the 26th National Congress discussion or resolutions around the issues of the critical minerals. And we all know that, maybe if I can just make mention of one or two of them, is the issue of the manganese, iron ore, coal, and chrome. So members of the public, we also received a presentation around some of the countries in which this coal of South Africa lives to. And interestingly, Germany, as we are sitting today, is ramping up and building more capacity in terms of the coal industry, the coal factories. And that is because they had a shortage of electricity for quite some time. It's not only them. We have also received a presentation that USA has more coal industry or coal factories than South Africa, in which the natural resources comes from. China as well. So we are looking into discussions to have with the DMRE and other extensive departments to look into ways in which we can be able to ramp up and build more coal fire stations in order to ensure that electricity is not a thing that we have electricity shortage one point, there's load reduction at another point. So we are escalating that debate and discussion, and we've invited them, SG, members of the different departments and subcommittees, to also contribute in some of these discussions, even from the level of the discussion documents, but we've also encouraged them that they should be able to participate in the NGC itself so that the discussions can be nourished. And as I've mentioned, there's also the debate around municipal disinvestment that is also led by the National Treasury. We are concerned. We are concerned on two fronts. We are concerned that the municipalities are not exercising their duties in terms of building and servicing our people correctly. The water shortages, the waste treatment plants, and many other of those that are not being serviced are causing a cause for concern. But we are also concerned around how the National Treasury responds to that. It cannot be that the National Treasury response can be the disinvestment and withholding of those necessary grants, because once you withhold those necessary grants, what it means that service delivery and service to the people is not going to be an objective that we're going to be dealing with. So we're also concerned about the licenses that was dispersed by the Department of Transport, led by Comrade Barbara Creasy. There are about 11 new entrants of the railway licenses and the new role players. We honestly are going to be looking at that very closely. And that will mean that we need to take responsibility in whatever that those licenses are going to come up with. Because if there are issues with regards to job security and security of the country, it's things that we also need to be very closely looking at. There is also an issue that a presentation that we'll have also received. And if you can see, I'm taking a bit long when I'm speaking about issues of economy, because that is what we have also been expected to do, and that is what is our task to discuss, because we are shaping our future as we go here. And that is why even in the convention, the president did say that we really would have wanted the debates to be centered around economy. So we have also received a presentation around the expatriate employees in the multinational companies that are operating in South Africa, and some of them that reach a ceiling at a very young age, and some of these multinational companies equally keep on bringing people on the pretext that is a skills transfer, but almost the same job or the same job has the same individual from South Africa that is not growing, but equally someone from overseas and other skilled countries, as they say, that they usually renew contracts and bring in new people into that space. So people in the middle class and middle strata are not growing, but there are people that are brought in from other countries on a pretext, on policy, that they are expatriate employees. And we also, President and members of the media, looked into the issue of the international relations and balance of forces. We have concretized this document around issues of national interest, because it's high time that we speak about ourselves as a country and our national interests when certain policies, when we're taking certain policy decisions. And that is because we need to ensure that at the global level, there is, we do away with the aggressiveness of trade nationalism. We also ensure that we pay close attention to armed conflicts that are happening, climate change related disruptions that continue to undermine the multilateralism. And this is because even in the 2025 report of the World Economic Forum on global risks, there are 3 risks that would have came out very sharply. And in the short and medium, in the short term, the risk is that there is a growing potential of state armed conflicts. And people who might not be paying special attention to this will think that this is only happening in Africa, TG. We have about 28 armed conflicts in Africa. Followed by that, we have armed conflicts that are also happening in North America, Europe, and South America. And that is a growing cause for concern. And even the World Economic Forum makes an extensive discussion around that. So it's an issue that we also need to place closer look. Another issue that came out of the global risk is the issue around the medium term, is the issue around misinformation and disinformation. Comrades, we all know how misinformation and disinformation has been happening. And it becomes vile around the time of elections. It becomes vile around perpetuating information, SG, that the communities might think that South Africans are xenophobic in their behavior, in their attack, and in their own thinking. So there is a growing concern around misinformation and disinformation, and that we would have seen playing itself out in the president's visit to Washington, D.C., where a video had been played which totally means something different, but it was conflated to mean that South Africa is doing xenophobia and genocide around the farm killings. So another issue that would have also came out in the long term from the World Economic Forum around 2025 global risk is the issue around extreme weather. We are seeing that there are many flooding that are happening around the country, around the world. The environmental degradation, the planting of trees needs to be escalated so that we can assist those areas that are in the slope space that are affected by these flood systems. There's also issues that with regards to climate change, and there are also issues that pertain to the natural resources shortages. And in this, we do think that these are debates that we should be able to scale up. Another point or another discussion document that will be presented at the NGC is that of the education, health and wellness. We are too concerned, SG President and the TG, around the implementation of the NHI. The GNU has afforded an opportunity for us to also be at the helm with that analysis that it's a strategic setback, but it does not mean that the Department of Health, equally with National Treasury, they must not take decisive responsibility and fund the pilot projects of NHI. So at the center of the debate and discussions that we're going to be looking in and bringing doctors, and the health subcommittee is also led by a doctor in profession, who will also be giving us an analysis around what is it that is hampering on the implementation on the NHI. And we do think that in the discussions that are happening around the defunding of the NHI and the prioritization led by the National Treasury, NHI must be at the center of the prioritization, and the budgets must also be scaled up. We have also ensured that the debate around those that we think that are not from South Africa, they should be also in some sort of a database that is compiled around those that must benefit from the NHI and those that will have entered the country illegally. And from that, we should be able to have a concise discussion around the beneficiation of the NHI for everyone in the country. We do want to escalate the debate around the funding of education, and we do think that both education and health have been at the center to receive a serious backlash by the National Treasury in terms of funding. So we want to have a decent conversation at the NGC around how is it that we can be able to come up clear in ensuring that 25% of the national budget is prioritized for education. The President has spoken about this, but I just want to emphasize it that it's also in the discussion document around the disbursement of the NSFAS funds to students. We do think that Post Bank is capacitated enough now to be able to lead that space. It can't be that Post Bank is able to disperse funds for old people of SASA and is unable to disperse funds for NSFAS beneficiaries. So we must be able to take responsibility. And interestingly, there is a new minister there. The new minister must be able to take up this discussion together with NSFAS. We do not want anything that is privatized in terms of the disbursement of NSFAS bursaries, but we do want the Post Bank to be at the center of the disbursement of the NSFAS bursary schemes. So another discussion document that has been prepared is centered around communication and the battle of ideas. And the important part that comes out of that, we've centered the message around every message depends on the integrity of the messenger. And the President has spoken about it, we've spoken about it in the discussion documents, in the resolutions, that there is no question around the policies that are taken by the ANC Youth League and the ANC itself. But there is a deeper discussion around if the people really believe the message that is being conveyed by the same organization and its leaders. So the basis in which we'll be discussing the communication and the battle of ideas is centered around every message depends on the integrity of the messenger. And embedded in that, we've also used a discussion document of artificial intelligence because we are there as we speak. There's no way that we can run away from that discussion. It's at the center, it's at the forefront. Young people are doing coding, young people are doing mechanization, and we do think that AI can also be able to assist us in terms of health, the health debate as an assisting tool to detect some of the viruses and diseases at the earliest phase. So we have a resource document that speaks specifically around issues of AI. Last but not least is the issue that pertain to gender equality and social inclusion. So if you can see now, we've moved away from debating issues of gender and sex. We have not framed it in that way. We've framed it in such a manner that it must include the most broadest of society, and that is inclusive of the women, young people and the LGBTQI. And there are proposals that we are coming up with, but we're particularly happy, and South Africa must also applaud us, that the national officials, there are 3 males, 3 females, and even in the rest of the NEC, the composition of the NEC reflects that there is a gender parity in terms of our own constituting. So we are taking up this discussion, but we are not only tokenizing the debate. The rest of the officials that are sitting here, some of them employed, some of them are not employed, but we can say without fear or favor that it must not be seen as if it's a token, but the Deputy President is a Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources and Resource, and which speaks about capacity and capability, but also it speaks about inclusion in certain sectors of the economy. So that is the basis in which we are speaking about. And also, when we speak about gender equality and social inclusion, we are also speaking about the security of women, but we're also speaking about safe spaces in campuses, in the location, in townships, where everyone, women and children and people with disability, can be able to operate and be able to move freely without instances of crime and being targeted by people who have nefarious reasons. So I think those are part of the discussions. If there are other things, we'll be able to bring that up. Thank you very much, President.
Thank you. That is Comrade Kutlwano Rakosa, the chairperson of the drafting committee of the NEC, of the ANC Youth League. So I think I'm going to open up for questions. I think he has given quite a sufficient presentation. If there are any questions, we are going to open up space for that. I only see one hand. Let us take your hand. There at the back.
Thank you, Somlom. Kutlwano just on what he delivered before us. One thing that I just wanted to check with the leadership, we spoke about the issue of water, infrastructure, and so on. This morning, I went to cover next to Meadowlands. There was an issue of water and electricity, whereby it's been alleged by some that infrastructure of water and electricity, deliberately so, have been sabotaged by certain people, whereby they need to dispatch their trucks of water to the communities. So as much as the Youth League, we want to see all areas, all corners of the country being proper running water, clean water. So what will you say on that? Because it also affects the youth. And why I'm saying that is also affecting the youth. In that area, same area that I'm referring to, they had now to release the children, the learners, to go home. Because in that area, people, they were burning, and there were rocks on the street, burning tires. There were police that they were shooting the rubber bullets and tear gas. So it's also affecting the youth, because now, meaning that they've lost one-day class. And those youth that we are also referring to, when they go home, some, they might be engaging in the negativity of what is happening within the township. So as the Youth League leadership, what will you say on that? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's Jingwama again.
Sorry, sir. Can I please, if there are any other hands, because I had recognized one, but I'll give you amnesty, but is there any other hand? Because we want to wrap it up now.
Okay.
Okay.
Askisisi is going to be quick now. So yeah, the question is, you mentioned about bringing the ANC closer to the masses, so bringing the ANC closer to the people. Last year elections, ANC dropped, it was last year I think, last year elections, ANC dropped very, very drastically. You're now below 50%. And it's the job of the youth, as the youth of the ANC, to try to elevate those marks, to bring more people closer to the ANC. So do you guys have a practical plan of bringing hope or bringing people again closer to the ANC to trust you guys again? Because you mentioned that we want to bring the ANC closer to the masses. So do you really think people should trust you, or do you have an actions plan for that? Bring your organization closer to the people, and then why should the youth trust you? Yeah.
Okay, the Secretary General is going to come and respond and probably wrap up all the conversations we've had today. Comrade SG.
Spokes, thank you very much. I'll start on the issue about water. I think, TG, there was a very fundamental statement that was made by Comrade Joel Nachitenzi, that beneficiaries of state capture and corruption will not give up without a fight. There are two fundamental phenomena that, as the Youth League, we have noted. One is the corporate state capture of both the national and the local state. An attempt to privatize public or state assets by corporate. And this we see largely happening in what we call the network industries. And that's why we said in the discussion document, we're watching with very serious concern the new slots that are given to private operators in our freight rail. Because it's a backdoor privatization of an already concentrated sector or an instrument of unlocking an economy. Those who are in mining, they will agree with us, and those who are in the agri-sector, that if you have been given a mining permit and you are now mining, it means you will then have your stockpile, which must move either to the factory or industrial site or to the port. But you'd never have allocation from Transnet, because these two areas are already slots given to the big conglomerates, multinational conglomerates like Glencore and Kumba. And when you give private operators now the slots, who are their clients? Are their clients these new miners, these new dry bulk agri products, who are me and you, who are young people, who are new entrants into the mining space? The answer is no. It's 18 million tons of Glencore, 20 million tons of Kumba, and it's them running the rolling stock in the freight rail. And that's why we're watching it with very serious concern. Who's going to maintain that rail? What's the expansion plan of the rail sector? Who is going to ultimately benefit? Is that not going to increase the input cost of transportation in our own economy? That's the first thing. We're watching it. The second aspect is that there is a parasitic tenderpreneurs, particularly in the water sector, who are engaged in syndicates of sabotaging public infrastructure in order for them to get job cards. These are people who are panels in these local municipalities, either through transmission lines, or they are maintaining transmission lines or water pipelines. Now what they do, they operate covertly. They sabotage the public infrastructure in order for them to be given more work, in order for them to make more money. And that is why they sabotage pipeline that transports water from water treatment works, commanding reservoirs to households or factories. They sabotage it in order that now, because they are what we call essential services, like hospitals, the water must be transported by truckers. So it's another element. So these are workings of counter-revolution that we're noting, as we're saying in our discussion documents, that this element of public infrastructure has to be watched in multifaceted ways. We must not look at it in one-dimensional way. We've got to look at it in multifaceted ways. The question the Youth League has been making is that how do we lower the input cost in the economy, which includes, by the way, your cost of producing electricity and cost of transmitting it, and the cost at which it arrives to the household and industrial centers. The cost of transporting goods and services. How do we lower that? How do we lower the cost of water? Because water is an input cost in any industrial site. It's also a very high input cost in the household use. So how do we lower these productive forces in order to unlock our economy and unlock the functioning, the effective functioning of our public services or integrated infrastructure operations? So that's why we are very clear as the Youth League, as we are making these discussion documents, high in the agenda. As we were saying, as the President was saying here, is that in the national dialogue, we are now going to take over the discourse. We're going to engage the DA youth, we're going to engage EFF youth, all these civil society organizations, your legacy foundations, ourselves as the Youth League. We're not going to allow that particular process to be a matter where we are made spectators. The future belongs to the youth. It doesn't belong to people who are 70 and above. They are not going to be there in the future. It's us who are going to be there. So we're going to converse with the EFF. We're going to converse with MK Party youth if it is there. We're going to engage DA youth and all other parties that have got the youth leagues. Of course, starting with our Progressive Youth Alliance. We are meeting the Progressive Youth Alliance on the 7th to discuss issues of national importance, because we no longer can postpone when we see that there is crisis in the country. We're going to take over as the Youth League and begin to craft the way forward. We can't allow a recrafting of the Freedom Charter to be taken over by right-wings and liberals, because that's what it is. When you are calling a national dialogue, that's what happened in Kliptown in 1955. We can't give it to right-wing elements. It must be driven by progressive formations that are known, not fly-by-night civil society organizations that we saw there in that thing called the National Convention. So we're not going to allow that. That's why we are clear as the Youth League that let's meet into the National Youth Dialogue, because we're going to convene a National Youth Dialogue as the Youth League, working, of course, with other progressive formations in the country. Thank you very much, folks.